Hi, welcome back to another Crypto Dave video. So today I'm going to talk about what I'm staking and why, and this is probably the second most common question I get. I think probably the most common question I get on my staking videos is will you take a look at a particular coin? And the second most common question is, can you run through the coins you have, why you chose them, etc, etc. So that's what I'm doing today. Sorry it's taken me so long to get round to this, but I've been a bit snowed under. Anyway, let's jump in and take a look at the coins. But before that, obviously this is not financial advice. I'm not advising or recommending any of these particular kind of projects. I'm not saying you should invest your money in them. I'm just giving you my overview of the kind of coins and why I added them to my portfolio. So let's start at the top and we'll work through them coin by coin. So before we jump into the specifics of the coin, I put this small table together, so it's got all the URLs for the websites. If you're interested in learning more about the coins, I'll put those in the description below. But this was just a table that I wanted to kind of put in. So this is all-time high. So this is the price of the coin at its all-time high. Now, in the vast majority of cases, this was back in January where everything peaked up. For a couple of coins like Acroma and Shard, which are fairly recent projects, this has been in the last few months. But for the rest of the projects, I think every single one apart from Acroma and Shard, this happened in January this year when everything kind of picked up. And then the current price is the midnight price last night. So it just gives you an idea of how far the projects have fallen since their all-time high. So I'll put this percentage drop from all-time high. Now, I didn't invest in all these coins at their all-time high. In fact, I don't think there's anything I bought at its kind of high here. But it will give you an idea about, I suppose, you know, a bit of an idea about the kind of projects, how much they've kind of fallen, stuff like that. And you can see here just from a quick glance that almost everything, or the vast majority, have dropped well over 80%, a lot of them well into the 90% from their all-time high. But let's start at the top of the list. As always, we'll start with Navcoin. Now, this was the first coin I started staking, so I didn't know anything really about staking. I started buying Navcoin about a year ago. I think it was last September I bought the first few, and I started staking in the following kind of month or so. And I sort of read about Ethereum's kind of proposed move. Even back then they were talking about the long-term kind of move from proof of work to proof of stake. At the time I was doing mining, so it was GPU mining. I'd set up I think all my Burstcoin mining, so proof of capacity stuff, and I was looking at kind of other projects. I was looking at stuff to kind of mine, and I came across Navcoin as a proof of stake coin. I quite liked the idea of proof of stake as opposed to proof of work. So I had a number of machines set up mining. My electricity costs were sort of spiraling a little bit out of control. Getting rid of the heat was, you know, I saw it that might be a problem kind of going forward the more machines I had. So looking at kind of proof of stake, so being able to run a machine, just run a wallet and earn, you know, the equivalent of what you would be doing through mining it through proof of work, but actually through proof of stake, was quite appealing. The other thing I quite liked about Navcoin was the NavPi concept. So that's the Raspberry Pi, so they have an image for that, and you can run a very low powered little device. It just connects via an Ethernet connection to your network and kind of stakes away in the background. So Navcoin was the first real proof of stake coin I kind of came across. I really liked the kind of concept of it. I hadn't done like a lot of research into proof of stake or anything like that, so I snapped a few up. Now obviously it's a relatively low staking coin. It was about 5% now. I think with the community fund it's dropped to 4% a year now, but it was a good introduction really into kind of staking. I like the kind of project. The team's really good. They've got a lot of stuff coming up, so they're like, a few of these kind of projects are now moving over to trying to build kind of platforms around their kind of products. So Navcoin will have a sort of a project alongside it, which will be a platform, a sort of Ethereum based platform, or sort of like, you know, kind of a smart contract based platform. Linda are doing the same thing with their Linda X, and a few other kind of coins are trying to move in that direction purely from being a staking coin. So that was my first coin. That was why what kind of attracted me. It was really just one of the first that I kind of come across. And then as I kind of got into kind of staking, so the number of Navcoin I had increased and the price was going up. This was beginning of this year, probably January this year. And I was looking at it and thinking, well, actually proof of stake and kind of masternodes, which I was also kind of interested in, could be quite a good you know, a good little earner kind of going forward. I had Dash that I'd mined way back in the Darkcoin days, and I had a masternode share at the time, so that was paying out kind of regularly, and I really liked the idea of masternodes, but I didn't have anything like enough Dash to run a full masternode. And I had no hope. I mean, a Dash masternode at the time I think was well over $1 million, so I had no hope of kind of buying a full masternode of that. So I was looking at other projects, and I found PivX, and I bought a few kind of PivX, and with PivX you can run masternodes or you can stake. Now I set up PivX as a staking kind of wallet around the same time as Navcoin, I think, but it was very unsuccessful. I didn't have many coins. I had about 350 coins, something like that, and because you need quite a number of coins often to kind of stake successfully. I think I received 1 stake or 2 stakes in several months, and I kind of abandoned that. The wallet was quite temperamental at the time as well, so I stopped staking with kind of PivX, and they were my only kind of like 2 sort of forays into kind of staking. Navcoin worked perfectly and was giving me kind of reliable and regular stakes, and PivX didn't really do anything at all. Now since then I believe they've updated their kind of wallets. Everything's kind of running a lot more smoothly, but you do need a number of coins with some of these coins with some of these kind of coins in order to stake successfully. And then as I started looking more into staking, I came across the Alpha Crypto channel. So if you haven't checked that out, have a look at that. It's Alpha Crypto, and he basically does a staking experiment. So he put $250 into a vast number of staking coins, and he did what used to be a weekly update and then became a sort of a 2-weekly update. I noticed he hasn't put an update out for almost a month now, so I don't know if that's just because the price of everything's going down, or maybe he's away over the summer. I'm not quite sure, but that was a really good channel. And the 2 big performers, so I wanted to get more into proof of stake, and the 2 most regular performers and the highest ones and always at the top of his list were Syndicate and Bitbean, which is now Beancash, rebranded to Beancash. And I decided on Syndicate, so I had a look at both projects, and Beancash seemed a little bit more kind of kiddie. I think the whole kind of cartoon bean is a little bit kind of childish. I like the idea of kind of Syndicate. It was always right towards the top of the table, so I bought some Syndicate, and I must have bought in towards that all-time high, not at that all-time high, but I bought my first chunk of Syndicate then. The other thing I liked about Syndicate was that you could set up a masternode as well as just staking. So I started staking with Syndicate, and I staked. I didn't run masternodes. I just staked all the way through to the coin swap. So when the new chain came out, so Syndicate was attacked. The old chain was attacked. The developers then moved on to kind of a new chain, and after we moved on to the new chain, there's a seesaw mechanism with rewards. So I've moved now over to masternodes. So I have 2 masternodes for Syndicate within this mining and staking experiment. I've got some other bits and pieces separate to this, but I have 2 masternodes, and what my plan is going forward with Syndicate is that I sell all the coins that I've kind of staked, all my masternode rewards at the beginning of the month or end of the month. I sell those off and convert those back into kind of Bitcoin or other projects. I was also interested in kind of other projects. Neutron was another coin that was often towards the top of the list on the Alpha Crypto channel, so I bought some Neutron now. Unfortunately with Neutron I did buy, it must have been towards, it wasn't quite at this all-time high, but I think it must have been about 90 cents, something like that. And the price of Neutron has continued to go down. Those of you who have followed the channels of staking and masternode reward update videos will know that often I talk about how the price of Neutron has gone down so much, and it was kind of true. It was quite interesting to look at these kind of figures, the drop from the all-time high. Neutron, one of the worst. I was quite surprised to see Smart Cash was actually the worst. And this kind of price here, this $2.81, that was just spiked up on one particular day, but it was a massive spike that particular day, which maybe slightly unfairly represents this. This would, I think, would be down towards a sort of, more towards a sort of like 94, 95 if it wasn't for that. But yeah, so looking here, Smart Cash and Neutron, very, very kind of poor, 2.5 cents at the moment, up from a high of $1.18. And although I didn't buy it at that, it was close to $1, I think, when I kind of bought it. So yeah, really bad timing really for that. As I kind of went on, Neo was a project I really kind of liked. So I really believed in the kind of project, and I was just waiting for a drop really to kind of buy in, and I eventually bought in the first lot at about $1. Now I didn't buy any of this with fiat. I think most of that probably was exchanged from Dash. So Dash had that massive kind of peak up to well over $1,000, and as it started to come down, I was not that strong on the long-term kind of future. I think it's a decent project, kind of Dash, but I was like, I didn't want the majority of my holdings in it anymore. So I bought into kind of Neo. It's about kind of $100. Now Dash has gone down probably an equivalent amount to what Neo has, and then the last tranche of Neo I bought in at about $17-18 a few weeks ago, so that will dollar cost average that down. Now the thing I liked about Neo, I really like the project. I think platforms are, you know, quite a kind of strong contender going forward. I think it's got a lot to kind of boost it up. I think it's a really good project, and I quite like the idea of cold staking. I hadn't had a coin that cold staked before, so with cold staking basically you can leave your Neo in a kind of wallet. You just have to literally open the wallet up to claim the gas. So it was also the first coin that stakes something other than the sort of like the first coin. So Syndicate stakes Syndicate, Neutron stakes Neutron, but Neo stakes something called gas. So it's a secondary coin that it stakes. So I bought into that, and that trickles over. It's a small staking coin, but I believe in the kind of project. It's down, you know, as I look at here from its all-time high, 90%. It's down probably 80% from when I bought my first chunk, and it's up, you know, 10% maybe from when I bought this kind of second chunk. So it only has to go back to about kind of $50 where I'm kind of break even on the kind of the cost. But it's a low staking coin. You get about 3.5 to 4% a year. But it's a project I believe in the long term. That's why I'm holding it within the portfolio. And then as I was looking for extra coins to go into the portfolio, Bean Cash was one that I tossed up between Bean Cash and Syndicate way back at the beginning. It was still performing really well on Alpha Crypto's channel. It was still right up there. So I splashed out and bought, I think it was about $1,000 worth or £1,000 worth of Bean Cash, was it? I forget now. And that's done really kind of poorly. Now, Bean Cash is one of the few projects here that I would actively discourage people from investing in. The development has pretty much died, and the big issue is that the developers hold a huge number of kind of Bean Cash. So basically every month they flog off all their stake kind of coins, which keeps the price kind of low. Now, I mean, looking from its all-time high, it's no worse than something like NAV or Syndicate or a lot of the other kind of coins, but it's not something I can see spiking up in price. I think when we have a kind of bull run, when everything starts jumping up in price, I can't see Bean Cash increasing as much as maybe some of the others. So a little bit kind of disappointing kind of Bean Cash, but my strategy with, I think probably with all of these coins going forward, probably not kind of Neo. Smart Cash is a little bit different because you have to hold that to get your smart rewards, but I think most of the coins that just produce in, you know, the same kind of coins each kind of month, I think I'm probably going to start selling off everything that was staked that month at the beginning of the following month, or at least moving them over to an exchange so that when they have a good day, then I can kind of sell those back to something more stable like Bitcoin. Anyway, that's Bean Cash. Smart Cash, I really like the idea of the smart nodes. I wanted to set up some more master nodes. So I had Syndicate master nodes probably by now, but most of the coins were purely staking. I really like the idea of smart nodes. You didn't have to buy that many. It's 5,000 smart cash for a smart node, so it wasn't a massive investment. And I also quite like the idea of smart rewards. So smart rewards work very much like a kind of cold staking, a little bit like kind of NeoGas. So if you hold your smart cash for a month, so basically it runs from the 25th of the month to the following 25th of the month, and if you have an address with over 1,000 smart cash in it and there's been no outgoing transactions from that address, you receive a percentage reward every month. So I forget what it is, a couple of percent, maybe something like that. So it's not enormous, but it's a really nice incentive for holding. You don't need your wallet open and staking or anything like that to run it. So Smart Cash is a really nice project, I think, from that way. I also think it's a really good community. I know it's, I mean, looking at this drop from all-time high, it's the largest drop out of everything within my portfolio, but I believe in the Smart Cash project more than I do some others within this list, and I'll go through and sort of like rank how risky I think some of them are maybe at the end. But I think some of the stuff Smart Cash is doing, they've been doing a lot of work over in Venezuela. They've got there's sort of point of sale stuff that's kind of coming through, these kind of smart cards, and it's an active community. I think it's a decent brand. I think Smart Cash is a really good brand. It's something that has the potential for one of these kind of smaller coins, I think, to potentially go somewhere. So I like the project. It's down massively from its all-time high. Obviously I didn't buy it at anything like its all-time high, but yeah, a big drop off there like most of the others, but I think potentially has a little bit more upside than some of the others. Linda's the next one. I like Linda as a project. I bought in a few months ago, and I was looking for a coin to add to the portfolio, and I looked at quite a few from Alpha Crypto's experiment. I looked at some other ones sort of outside of that, and Litecoin is something I quite like. They've got a really active community. I'm not saying it's a great coin, I'm not saying it's going to change the world or anything like that, but it's got a good community. They're trying to push things on from being just another kind of masternode slash staking coin. So it's like all of these coins are like, we've got masternodes, we have fast transactions, and we have private, optional private transactions. Everybody that has masternodes can do that. There's nothing new in that. But I think Linda, this push into kind of Linda X, which will be a kind of platform, I think is potentially kind of interesting. And I swapped a little bit of my Linda, which is on a staking pool, for some Linda X. But yeah, an interesting project going forward. It stakes reliably on the staking pool. And that's the, sorry, I forget now, it's the official pool, which is my node pool, I think it's called. So it stakes pretty reliably on that. I quite like the project, some of the stuff they're doing. With a lot of these things, you don't know whether Linda X will take away from kind of like Linda kind of development and stuff like that. But it's nice to see a team that's kind of active and has ideas about how they want to kind of do things going forward. Before we go to a Chroma, I'll just jump over that to Pivx. So Pivx is a coin obviously that I said I bought last year, sort of last summer, something like that. And I tried staking it in the kind of wallet, and I think I got 2 Pivx in, period of several months. So I just left it in the wallet. I didn't run the wallet. I didn't stake with the wallet. And then just recently I moved it over onto a staking pool. So I've started kind of actively staking Pivx again. It's down, a big chunk from its all-time high. It's a fork of Dash. So it's a decent project. It's one of the larger ones out of so you've got kind of NeoGas, like quite a big project, and then probably Pivx, probably the second largest out of these. But it's a good project, a lot of development going forward. I quite like it. It's just that unfortunately I didn't have enough Pivx to stake successfully solo. So when I started looking into staking pools more recently, I threw it over to there, and it does seem to be working okay. And then the last two, so Achroma and Shard. So Achroma I discovered through the iMine Blocks YouTube channel. So that's Lee from iMine Blocks, and he does mainly mining videos. I came across his channel well over a year ago when I was setting up my Burstcoin mining stuff. He was big into kind of Burstcoin mining, had some really useful videos for that. And then a couple of months ago, he's always looking out for kind of like new projects to kind of mine. So new projects, sort of like early sort of adopter stuff, of which some will take off and a lot of them will kind of die. And it's always a risk. But I looked at one of his kind of mining videos. Mining had sort of like really kind of tailed off. It was struggling to kind of make a profit with electricity costs here in the UK. So I jumped on Achroma, and I had a few decent days of kind of mining before it became more popular and the network got a bit more kind of swamped. And so I had a chunk of these Achroma. I stopped mining it, but then I thought, well, I'll buy up the remaining amount I need to run a masternode. I've been running a masternode on Achroma. It pays out quite regularly. Now you can see here it's gone down massively, 85% just in a few months. It was at a peak of 33 cents right near the kind of beginning. I think I kind of bought it was about 11 cents when I bought mine, so it's down probably about 50% from there. But with the market the way it has been in the last kind of month or two, no big surprises there. And then right here at the bottom is Shard. Now I didn't know a lot about Shard. I discovered it because I was pool mining my Linda on my node pool, and it's one of the other options. So Shard was there. The staking rewards are really, really big. I don't know that it's gonna do anything. These smaller projects are always really, really kind of risky, but I only had, I think it was like $50 or something. I think I had a small amount floating about in one of the exchanges where you could buy Shard on. So I thought, oh, I'll buy a few and just see how it stakes. And it staked really reliable. It's down 70%. It's only been around for a couple of months. So it's had a big drop off, really, considering it's only been around for a kind of few months. But it's a really big staker at the same time. So it's a sort of, it stakes somewhere around that sort of 150-200% a year. So if it's only if that stays and it doesn't drop that much, say it picks up a little bit, then it could in the short term I think be quite a good kind of investment. But these coins that stake a huge amount, I think in the long term obviously you're going to have those inflationary kind of issues. Now a lot of people say, what would I recommend, stuff like that. I don't, as always, it's not financial advice. The larger the project and the more time it's been around, I think probably the safer the option. Looking down these kind of lists here, I would probably class obviously Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum as kind of real class 1 kind of cryptocurrencies, like the very best of the kind of best. And then after that, I think there's a lot of sort of like what I'd term sort of class 2 cryptos. I'd put Neo into that kind of into that range, and stuff like kind of Dash, a lot of new kind of projects. But I think Neo would probably be the only thing within this list that would fall into that. And then if we go to sort of, let's say, class 3 cryptos, I would then put stuff like Pivx and Navcoin, maybe Smart Cash might squeeze into that, and then the rest of them would be sort of like, you know, maybe tier 4 or kind of class 4. So Syndicate, Neutron, you know, Bean Cash, Linda. I know Linda's trying to do some extra kind of stuff, but you know, a Chrome and kind of Shard, they'd be sort of towards the bottom of the list in terms of how long they've been around, how much development they've got, you know, kind of what kind of potential or how risky they are. So at the top of the list, I'd say stuff like kind of Neo, probably least risky, followed by maybe things like kind of Navcoin, maybe a Smart Cash, and then further down the list you've got something like, so a coin like sort of Syndicate or Neutron, it's purely a proof of stake / masternode coin. They, you know, have this idea that we're going to do this, we'll do, in the case of Neutron, it's kind of educational based stuff. With Syndicate, it's like we'll do business kind of loans or something. But you know, there is no need on earth for any, you know, many of these coins to kind of exist. I'm not having a go at the projects. They're trying to kind of do stuff, a lot of these projects, trying to differentiate themselves, but they really exist purely as staking and masternode kind of like reward kind of coins. And the toss up between that is, it's always like, it always moves towards almost like a kind of pyramid scheme where, you know, if you have no kind of use case, then you're just relying on the rewards that people can gain in order for people to kind of buy in. But obviously you've then got inflation, that the higher the rewards, the more people kind of jump on it, but then the higher the inflation, the more the kind of coin drops in price. So if you're looking for a long-term hold, I'd say, you know, look for something that has like a real project, a real kind of like value behind it. Don't worry so much about the proof of stake and the staking and the masternode rewards. If you are looking for large sort of like quick rewards through something like Shard, for example, you have to be kind of on top of these things. So you have to kind of like, you know, get in early, get your rewards, and get out before the price starts kind of tanking. So it's a lot more kind of work than I would say something like Neo. Having said that, obviously Neo has dropped by almost 90% since its all-time high. So it's fared no better than a lot of these other kind of coins, which I would, you know, on the face of it, say were a lot worse kind of quality. So everything's been affected quite badly in this kind of down market. I think everybody has some favourites. I have a fondness for Navcoin just because it was my first staking coin, I think. Syndicate did really well for a month where the network was under attack, and I got some money out of that. So that I've got a little more of a soft spot for Syndicate than I have for kind of Neutron. Smart Cash, I like the project. Linda, again, I quite like these kind of projects. Bean Cash, I think is probably a dead project now. I wouldn't advise at all going into something like that. And then towards the bottom, you know, Pivx I think is a really good project going forward, if not a big staker. And then a Chrome and Shard, these are just, you know, pure punts really. You know, they might do something small, they might do nothing at all and just kind of tail off. Anyway, that's my thinking behind the coins which are in my portfolio. There's not, you know, in some cases a huge amount of kind of logic. Often it's like I'm looking around for a coin to add to the portfolio, so I'm just, you know, I'll browse around between a few different coins and pick what I think, you know, is the best between them, weighing up kind of staking rewards and kind of long-term kind of future. But, you know, stuff like kind of Navcoin, I fell into kind of really Navcoin before I'd, you know, done a huge amount of research into kind of proof of stake coins. I still like the kind of project, but there's not always a lot of method behind the madness. Anyway, hopefully that's been somewhat useful. Apologies it's kind of gone on a bit, but if you have any kind of questions, ask me in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.